All right, welcome to the Ultimate Hockey Show. I'm Michael Dell, joined by Rick Petty. Welcome to your favorite weekly tradition known as the Ultimate Hockey Show. Michael Dell, as I said, Rick Petty to my right. Good afternoon, Rick. How are you?
Very good, Michael. Good afternoon. How are you?
Good afternoon. I am great. Thank you for moving the show an extra half an hour. I have a commitment I need to get to tonight, so it required the show being moved a little bit. Good afternoon, Rob. I see your comment. We've left it in here before we even started. Touch about being punctual. That being said, we are closer and closer to the Stanley Cup final with four teams remaining. Rich, I know we have two series that we need to talk about. Um, and then we'll talk. I think we'll pick up the conversation as it pertains to the Winnipeg Jets because there's some uh, interesting details from NHL insider Chris Johnston today in regards to the future of Nikolai Ehlers in Winnipeg.
Okay.
Um, Long story short, they said that he believes that both sides want the other. It's a matter of making the financials work.
Yep.
Um, to
Excuse
which
me.
I say, and I don't know about you, Rick, isn't that about every negotiation possible?
Yeah, but sometimes free agents for every for every guy I would say Shifley, Connor Hellebuck, now potentially Nick Ehlers. For every guy that says I want to stay put, I don't want to go. There's a guy that says, you know what, I've earned my right and I want to test free agency. And not even just that I want to test it, I just want a new chapter. I want a new start. And I think that may be the difference between, like, for example, a Mitch Marner and I would say also a Brock Besser for out of Vancouver. I think those two guys are going to find new homes, whereas two other guys in the free agent pool, and we can chat about that because TSN threw up their top
Yeah,
50 UFA list, which is really interesting. We can
yeah.
chat that
Rob said that to
later.
me earlier today
Yeah,
too.
but we can chat about that afterwards. But um, where then there's guys like I would argue like Nick Ehlers and maybe also to that point John Tavares who want to stay. Now, can it work? See, I would argue John Tavares shouldn't stay. I think he needs a change of scenery, but maybe if the Jets can get him for a reasonable price, he can be your second or third line center. But because that team still has to make some changes besides just Mitch Marner going. So that being said, it'll be interesting. I heard Chevy say too, it was on the news, and then I read it online too, that he said, I'd like to keep Nick Ehlers as a Jet for life. That was
Yeah,
his,
yeah.
some of the words. I may be paraphrasing, but something to
No,
that.
he said that in his postseason media availability last Tuesday or
Yeah.
last Wednesday. Um,
Yeah.
he 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 admitted that he had met with Nick Whalers' agent, and he said they would like the opportunity to present Nick Whalers a package that would make him a Jet for life.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was that was sort of the context behind that.
Right.
Um,
And to the point of some of the feedback is that I
yep.
think that they both decided like some players are funny. Like there's guys like, for example, Alex Iafallo, who signs his 3-year extension or 2 or 3 years, say whatever it was, for three and change a year for about 9 or 10 million over 3 years. He signs it right before the playoff starts. And he said, and they ask him why. He says, I want to get this out of the way. I want to be here. I love this team. They love me. It works, right? And guys just say, I want that security. I'm done. I don't need to shop around. I don't want to lift my family up again. I'm secure here. I like here. I can have the off season to go surfing or fishing or sailing, whatever my gig is. But I like this hockey environment. I want to stay here. And but they don't want to do it but they do it during the season to get it down or right before the playoffs. And then there's guys like Nick Ehlers, they're kind of quiet. And or like Mitch Mark too. They just kind of say, I don't want to talk about it during the regular season. It's just my thing. I don't want to, whatever. I think there was always this understanding, to your point, I think there was this understanding that the Jets and Ehlers were going to get it done, but they didn't, for whatever reason, before the season started. maybe Nick Ehlers wanted to play out just to sort of say, I want to prove to you that I can stay healthy for a long stretch of time. I want to prove that I can be part of this team getting back to the playoffs and being a great team. It all works in his favor. He had probably his year from a stat perspective and from a health perspective, even though he was injured a little bit. I think it's the most he's played all year was 70 games or whatever it was.
Yeah.
He played 50 to 60 a year the last 3 years before this year. So maybe that all was part of his thinking was, I want to prove that I belong and that I can get my maximum money with the Jets. So now he's going to sign something. I think he's going to sign with the Jets. I just hope it's not nutty. And I hope the Jets can fit him under the cap and still have room to do something else, because I still think they need to do something else besides just re-signing guys. They have to change the makeup of the team to some degree, because it didn't work this year. I mean, they were a great team, but they didn't do anything in the playoffs. Well, they did something. They had Manitoba Miracle, okay, one round, blah, 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 blah. But how are you going to get past Dallas, Edmonton, Florida,
Carolina,
Tampa Bay, you could throw in there, even the Golden Knights. I mean, because they never had the chance to get up against them again, Colorado. You need to do more. This team is not good enough as it's built right now to win in the playoffs, in my opinion. You and I can debate that, but that's my opinion.
I agree, but I think I don't believe that Nikolai Ehlers was, to use a term, I don't believe that he harmed the Jets in any way with his performance.
Okay, I would say you're right. I think he's a big part of their success. I would agree with you, but signing Nikolai Ehlers, re-signing him, is not enough alone to get
correct. No, and I would agree with that. I think the bottom part of the lineup.
Okay.
I think the bottom part of the lineup needs a little bit of work. I think ultimately, if you look at a team like the Florida Panthers, which we'll get into in just a little bit, they seem to be scoring up and down the lineup. Edmonton Oilers scoring up and down the lineup. Dallas scoring up and down the lineup and from the bottom pair. We've seen that basically the teams that are where they are right now get scoring throughout the lineup. And I think I hate to put this on Mason Appleton, but he had one chance to put a puck in the net in game 6 with an open net and a goaltender down and out, and he couldn't do it.
Yeah.
If he scores that goal, probably a game 7 in Winnipeg, and who knows?
That thin a margin, literally. I think you can see that.
That thin a margin, but also I think if you have some goal scorers on your 3rd and 4th line who put a few goals in every now and then, it's not all on your top 6.
Yeah. They have some good heart. They have some good, listen, I like none of those guys, Morgan Barron, Alex Iafallo.
But I think my argument is consistent scoring.
Right. Or
they're
beyond,
inconsistent.
They're not going to be first and second line scoring, but you're right, getting the kind of scoring from them that you get not just in the regular season, but in the playoffs.
Look at Edmonton. How many goals from Hyman? How many goals from Henrique? How many goals from the bottom part of the lineup of guys not named McDavid and Draisaitl until yesterday?
Yeah.
Mason Appleton, I love the guy, but you scored 5 or 10 more goals, and you don't have this proverbial letdown.
Right. And I think you're being foolish to expect him, like, to say Appleton scored 10 this year, he can score 20 next year. I just don't think it, like, it's you can't get a mule to run like a racehorse. And I'm not calling him a mule. I'm just saying you can't get a mouse to dance. You can't get an elephant to put on a tutu. No. There's some things an elephant does an elephant does.
And I think I think what I'm trying to say is, from Mason Appleton's spot in the lineup, they need more goals. Not Mason Appleton directly.
I would say.
I think we've seen Mason Appleton ceiling as a goal scorer.
Yep.
But if you could get a timely goal from your third and fourth line with a little bit more consistency, I think you take a lot of pressure off your group.
Yeah, I would agree.
That that's just me. Again, I think we saw it. The Jets not deep enough goal scoring wise, relative to Dallas. Pat asking, should they have changed the goalie more often during the year? I don't think so. I think the regular season speaks for themselves. What changed in the playoffs? Goals were harder to come by. And when goals
Yeah.
are harder to come by, you need more guys with the ability to put the puck in the net. It's
And you need guys, and this is what it is. We talked about it. It's
Yep.
They have guys that can score regular season goals, which are you still have to work for them, but they're more end to end. They're on rush chances. They're on cycling a little bit, and then a cute little pass in tight and whatever. That's where Ehlers and Nemestikov and Perfetti and Connor, even Scheifele, they all work. But in the playoffs, you need goals more like Lowry scoring the game-winning goal
Yep.
in overtime.
Yep.
To the
Yep.
point, get a shot, get a deflection,
Mhm.
create havoc in front of the net. And the Jets don't have enough guys who can score those types of goals. And that's
It's
why they're a great regular
Yep.
season team, and they're just a very
Yep.
average playoff team. And Hellebuck has also been very average, and it's not been the defense in front of him. Hellebuck has let in
Yep.
too many soft goals in the playoffs over the last few years. Pucks that he stops normally in the playoffs, he doesn't stop in the playoffs. Or in the regular season, he doesn't stop. Is that because of traffic? There's more traffic on that because everybody says you got to get to the front of the net, and everybody else does. And the Jets don't have strong enough defensemen to push away, so that's why there's more traffic in front. And so they can't defend as well. So Hellebuck doesn't see as well. So they get goals scored against them. So
I think too. Like one thing we notice, a few games exceptionally aside,
yeah,
goals off the rush are harder to come by than those hard-working, bank it off the shin, bank it off the guy in front, use the guy as the screen in front. Those are sort of the way that it sort of functions. If you know what I mean.
yeah,
The goals off the rush, and this is why maybe Kyle Connor is a horrible example because he had a very good playoffs with leading the Jets in points. But players that predominantly dominate games off the rush, excel off the rush, are challenged in the playoffs to replicate the goals and replicate the success. I hate putting Nikolai Ehlers in this boat because he led the team he led the team in playoff points and playoff goals when he did play. But my argument to that, and you kind of brought this to my attention when we were talking in person, empty net goals are different than hard earned goals with goalie in the net, and.
Mhm.
I think the prime example is and we can tie this into the Florida series. Florida didn't goals up and down the lineup, but Utu Lesterainen, who's a third or fourth line center, is scoring seemingly in every game. Mito Mitola, the guy that came in for Reinhardt last team. Name escapes me, but he got a goal. Boldquist.
Boldquist, yeah.
So having guys that do that consistently is why Florida's having success. And listen, I misjudged that series. I said Carolina would win in 5 because I honestly thought this season was different. Well, ho hum, the Panthers are taking the Hurricanes behind the woodshed and stealing their lunch.
Yeah.
That's not close. It's not competitive. It's how, and I'll just say this. Series will likely be over tonight. How a team coached by Rod Brendamore completely no shows in the biggest games of the season it is bewildering to me. Like,
Mm.
that's not a Rod Brendamore coach team to have their doors blown off.
But what does that tell you? Does that tell you Carolina's not that bad? They're actually changing their goaltender tonight. They're going back
Yeah.
to Frederick Anderson. But
Good luck with that.
well, I don't know. But I'm just they have to do something. But to me, it doesn't even show like Carolina's not a bad team. They're a good team. You know what it shows you? How good Florida is.
Yeah, no, they're good.
It's good. If we have a repeat of last year's Stanley Cup, Edmonton and Florida, and everyone's saying, oh, it's Edmonton's chance. Edmonton's now learned something. They're going to take. Okay, just hold your horses. I've picked against Florida for the first 3 rounds, and I've been mistaken every time. And I would just say, let's not be so sure to jump against Florida. Yeah, I didn't pick them. Did I pick them in the first round? Nope, I did not pick them in each of the 3 rounds. If they make it to the finals against the Oilers or against Dallas, I'm picking. I know you picked Edmonton. I'm going to pick Florida because until they have been so good against Carolina, so good, and not just offense. Yeah, they scored 6 goals. I think part of that was Carolina maybe folding the tents, but what they've done to Carolina's goal scoring. I mean, Nemestikov is non-existent. I mean,
you mean Svechnikov?
Or sorry, Svechnikov. Thank you, Svechnikov and Aho. Like they're 2 big guys.
Yeah.
Like
Seth Jarvis has been pretty much eliminated.
And Seth Jarvis, yeah, he was on the 4 Nations team. He's been very quiet. I mean, he's been involved. Like he's still a hard-nosed player, and he goes to the net. And he gets banged around. He's always in.
Last I saw, he was being banged around into his own bench by a Panther.
Yeah, yeah. But all that to say, it just shows you how good Florida is. And until somebody knocks him off the pedestal, and 3 teams have tried, 3 very good teams, Tampa Bay, then Toronto, and then now Florida, or Carolina. Like those are 3 of the top 5 teams in the Eastern Conference, and even in the whole NHL this year, maybe the top 3 of the top 7 or 8 teams.
Yep.
And they haven't even had a sniff. And now you think the Oilers are going to say maybe, and again, maybe it's always a possibility, but I'm done going against Florida. They are such a good team. They're so well coached. They get it. Like once you win and you know what it takes, then to repeat that, you get it. Like you understand sacrifice. You understand the little things you got to do to be effective, and you just stay in your lane. You stay in your system. You don't cheat. You know, if the game's 1-1, it's in the 3rd period, suddenly it's 6-1, just like that, or 5-1. But you got to stay in your lane, even if you go down 2-1. Stay in your lane, do your thing.
That's the one thing.
Over and over and over.
That's the one thing. Florida fell behind 3-1 in the game 3 against Toronto, and they came back, and they haven't really lost since.
Yep.
I didn't see them panic down 3-1. They've given up the first goal multiple times in the playoffs. No panic. My follow-up question: did Winnipeg and did the Jets take Paul Maurice for granted?
No, Paul Maurice wanted out.
No, I understand that, but to see him having the success that he's having now, and probably a 2nd Stanley Cup in a row, at minimum what's probably going to be a 3rd straight Stanley Cup Finals appearance. Did we give Paul Maurice the wrong type of team in Winnipeg?
No, I don't know. I just think he took his team as far as he could go, and he may have seen, like, he didn't know that he was going to end up in Florida. He didn't know that because he was at home for a long time, and then Bill Zito called him at home 6 months or 8 months later after he'd said goodbye to the Jets, but or whatever it was, 4 months, 6 months, I'm not sure, but he didn't leave saying, "Oh, I want to coach Florida because that's where I can win a Stanley Cup." It wasn't that. I just think you get to a point where eventually your story, it's you're there 7, 8, 9 years. Not everybody can be a Scotty Bowman or even Scotty Bowman at the
even Mike Babcock in Detroit.
Yeah, but even they had to move around. Scotty Bowman was first in St. Louis for 4 or 5 years. Then he was with Montreal for a number of years. Then he was with Detroit later on for a few years. But he was never at one place. Well, maybe Montreal, he might have been there 10, 14 years. I'm not sure, just maybe over 10 years. But anyway, all that to say, eventually your story wears thin with every room that you're coaching, right? So I don't think the Jets, listen, from what I know, the Jets didn't want him to go. Cheveldayoff wanted him to stay. In fact, he wanted to go earlier, and Cheveldayoff convinced him to stay another year or a half year or whatever it was. And when he resigned halfway through the year there, and Dave Lowry had to take over. So I don't know. Paul Maurice is a good coach, and you know what? You get a really good coach with a good team, with good players, and you just sync them together at the right moment. You have magic, and that's what's going on in Florida right now. You could argue their best player in Matthew Tkachuk has been almost a non-factor, right? And they haven't played. And Sam Reinhart got injured, and they still won that game 6-1. Like, it's like two of their best players. Like, can you imagine the Jets losing Scheifele and Lowry? Like Scheifele being like non-effective, getting no points. Yeah. And Connor being out of the lineup, what that would mean to the Jets. And look at Florida. They just keep rolling over their best teams with two of their best players, one not in the lineup and one non-existent.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing. Secondary scoring, guys who come in off the the Black Aces in Boquist. He comes in, he scores a beautiful goal. It's just, like, Florida is just a different animal. I don't know how to describe it. Yeah. But anyway.
Does the NHL have a competitiveness problem?
What do you mean a competitiveness problem?
We're looking at 6 straight Eastern Conference champions coming from the state of Florida.
Well, I think a lot of good players like to play. If you're a free agent, you like to stay in Florida because it's very nice weather and they tend to be good teams, and winning begets winning. When Detroit was that powerhouse at the end of Yzerman's career, all those guys like Shanahan, he wanted to go to Detroit to win a cup. Like they all went to Detroit because Detroit was the place to be with Babcock. It was a winning team, and winning begets winning. And it's a winning culture. So once you establish a winning culture, and I think to a lesser extent, that's happened in Edmonton. That's happened in Winnipeg too. I mean, yes, we have cold winters and whatever, but the True North is a great organization, and they treat the players really well. Every player that's played here, barring Evander Kane, and he's an X factor. You got to throw it. He's like whatever. But you talk to Matthew Perreault. You talk to who are guys that have played here. Even Brian Little, Andrew Ladd. They all said, like, we were treated like kings with the Jets. Like they're some of their favorite times playing hockey. Nothing bad to say. So, and now the Jets are winning, even better. So So we'll see what that does. But I still think, now we're going back to the Jets, but I still think the Jets got to do something beyond just signing Ehlers. But to your point about Florida, I just think they are right now, they're up. What are they on?
3-0.
3-0 on Carolina. You're right. And Edmonton's up 2-1. And who plays tonight? It's Edmonton and Dallas.
No,
tonight.
It's Florida tonight.
Right. Okay, that's right, because Anderson's playing. I mean, can Carolina win 4 straight? Sure, they could. But how they've played the first 3 games, I don't think there's anybody putting money on Carolina winning 4 straight with that team, the way they've been dominated by Florida the last 3.
But Rich, you could argue the West has been just as uncompetitive. I mean, we have not. There was a stat that I saw this morning. No conference final game in either the East or the West has been within 2 goals so far.
Yeah, they've been huge swings, right? Either way.
Yeah.
And that's sometimes the way it is. Look at the Jets. They beat Dallas twice, 4-0, and then got bombed another game and then lost all the other games were close.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
it's funny. It's playoffs, it's travel, sometimes it's bounces, it's your goalie just not being on. I don't know. Guys get tired. Who knows? Injuries. It's weird. I still think Dallas is going to make this a series. I just don't think they're going to roll over that easy. And just like Edmonton won in Dallas, I think Dallas plays way better tonight and kills their penalties. They don't take too many penalties. They get some secondary scoring from Hintz and from Robertson. Rantanen plays better. He gets a goal, maybe a goal and an assist, and they win this game. And they go back to Dallas, and it's a best of 3.
Yeah, it's interesting. What did you make of Darnell Nurse's last on Rope Hintz?
Yeah, it's playoffs. I don't know.
I mean, there's a lot of people saying, "Oh, that should have been a major penalty. He should have played supplemental discipline." Listen,
Did he get a phone call today?
No, he didn't. Um, it's just interesting because everybody whining about how dirty of a player Darnell Nurse is, and in the same breath, these people also telling me how much they enjoy the Florida Panthers. So one can't be like the other. As far as I'm concerned. What have you seen from Edmonton? Like, this is repetitive. Like, the part that would infuriate me if I'm the Oilers is you don't know what Stuart Skinner did yet. I mean, Game 1, third period, great. Game 2, great. Game 3, great. Game 4 against Vegas, great. Game 5 against Vegas, great. Game 1 against LA, oh. Game 2 against LA, oh.
I know. A week ago, or maybe not a week ago, 2 weeks ago, you would have said if Oilers go anywhere, it's with Calvin Pickard all the way before he got injured after the way he played against LA. Yep. And now it's like a complete flip-flop. It's the strangest thing. You think about that tandem of goalies. Like, how could this be like with any other team to be this way? Like, you just don't have a number one. You've got 2 1Bs or 2 2As. I don't know. It's the strangest thing. And now Skinner, he's playing lights out after looking like a slice of Swiss cheese in the net in the first round. It's strange. And that's why I'm still not sold on the Oilers. And that may be, I know folks are saying, "Oh, you have to cheer for Edmonton. They're their only remaining Canadian team." No, I don't. If you're a Winnipeg Jets fan and you're older than 50, even 40, how can you cheer for the Oilers? They were the Jets' thorn, the Jets' nemesis since the beginning of time, since the 1980, through all the Wayne Gretzky years and whatever. You can't cheer for the Oilers. I will never cheer for the Oilers, ever. It could be the Oilers against Putin. Vladimir Putin could put together a team of Russian soldiers on hockey skates with machine guns on the ice, and I cheer for them before I cheer for the Oilers. So I'm not cheering for the Oilers, period. But that being said, in my opinion, even if the Oilers get past Dallas, that's that factor. Who's to say that Skinner, he doesn't be that Skinner he was in the first round? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's not of what am I looking for? What's the phrase? There's not enough of a sample size for me to be all in on the Oilers and specifically on Stuart Skinner or Calvin Pickard. I can be all in on Sergei Bobrovsky, and I can be somewhat all in on Jake Ottinger because they've been there the whole way and played pretty consistently through the playoffs, even though they've lost games here and there. But
yeah, it's interesting that way because, you know, if you were to look at Jake Ottinger, you would suggest that Jake Ottinger would be the better goaltender of the two, and he hasn't played like it the last 2 games. But the other part of it is that, like, if you take out the third period of game number 1, Dallas has scored the amount of goals that I can put on my one hand. Like, where is Dallas' scoring gone? Like, Jason Robertson, Tyler Seguin, Miro Heiskanen, yeah, he had 1 goal, you know, to help the cause. But Rope Hintz even. Like, the guys that I would suggest is Dallas's front end, top 6 bona fide goal scorers have gone quiet for an extended period.
Yeah.
To me, I get what you're saying about Dallas. I do. But tomorrow night will be a telltale sign, like Rob is saying. And he's saying the Edmonton going to take the stranglehold on this series Tuesday night, putting the Stars on the brink of elimination going into game 5. I will give Dallas one more game in this series, and it will not be tomorrow night. It'll be game 5 at home to push this back to Northern Alberta on Saturday night. But I can't figure out where this Dallas Stars goal scoring has gone
Yeah.
from predominant hockey players. And it's not just in this series. Those players were quite honestly quiet unless your name was Mito Rantanen in that series against the Jets. Their depth scoring did just enough to win a lot of games.
Yeah.
Where has this front end scoring gone?
Yeah. I know. Well, like we said in the last round, if it wasn't for Mikko Rantanen, the Jets wouldn't have scored or had any goals against them because those guys were completely quiet. And it's still that case. Like, yeah, they had the one game they scored 6. They won whatever it was, 6-1 or 6-2.
If Mito Rantanen doesn't score a hat trick in game 1, that series is going 7.
Yeah,
against the Jets.
Yeah. But nobody else did. Like, I agree with you. Now, Robertson may still not be 100%. I mean, he's a good player. Maybe he's not quite 100%, and they've rushed him back, and he's not quite. And if you're not 100%, it's hard to score goals in the NHL. And if you're not completely healthy, it can sometimes be a challenge too as a goal scorer. But you're right.
And then,
like Duchesne, Hintz, Robertson,
Sagan has 1 goal, I think,
Sagan,
of in recent memory.
Marchment. Those are all goal scorers. They can all score goals, and they have just been, and that's been the difference. Like when you look at Florida, their guys on the 3rd and 4th line, even 2nd line, they've all scored, not just their so-called superstars like Tkachuk and who was the other one that got injured? Tkachuk and Reinhardt. They've had scoring up and down that lineup. And Dallas hasn't. Now, Dallas still got into the 3rd round. They're still in the series. They're only down 2-1. But everybody counted on Dallas. Like right to the beginning of the year, they counted on the Stars being the team to beat to win the Cup. And that was before they even got Rantanen. And why? It was because of their defensive style play. They play like a playoff team all the time. And they had even scoring throughout their lineup. They had really good, consistent guys who can score up and down. Not like the Jets that you get it here and there. And that scoring has gone cold, like it did with the Jets. They look like the Jets. Only one line scores, and everyone else just kind of throws in what they can and plays really good defensively. Well, you better then score 1 or 2 goals and shut down the Oilers, because if you're expecting to win 2-1 on Rantanen and Hintz being your only goal scorers, or Rantanen and Granlund being your only goal scorers, you better play lights out.
See, that's the other thing. Like Rantanen got a hat trick in one game. Granlund got a hat trick in another. Just goes to show you need scoring up and down the lineup.
Yep.
And if your name's not Liam Bishop, who's got 2 goals to speak of, it's depth scoring for you. But that's sort of besides the point. But really quickly, we have not had a lot of time to talk about coaching maneuvers since the NHL playoffs have come and gone for some teams. So I'll just ask you what you think about certain types of situations. The first is Ron Francis stepping down as general manager of the Seattle Kraken.
Oh, boy.
He's now the president of the Seattle Kraken.
I
just, you could see he did an upgrade, a promotion. But Jason Botterill, Manitoba Connections, Jason Botterill is now the general manager of the Seattle Kraken. Your thoughts on this move for the Kraken?
So is Botterill also moving up? So they have like sort of 2 steps and just went like this?
Yeah, so Botterill is the general manager. Francis is now the team president.
But was Botterill the assistant general manager before?
Yeah, he was the assistant general manager. Yeah.
And who is Ron Francis replacing? Did somebody retire?
I do not believe so. I think it's a created position.
Okay, yeah. So they're wanting to bring in, wanting to do a little bit more succession planning. Listen, Ron Francis is a hockey guy. Jason Botterill has been an assistant GM for a number of teams. He's with them. I think he was with Ottawa for a while, wasn't it? I think it was. He's been sort of an assistant GM. He's been in the hockey, sort of in the hockey executive pool for a while, working his way up. and now he's getting the chance.
He
to
was
be
also a general manager for a small period of time with the Buffalo Sabres.
Yeah, very small. Yeah, that's right, because he was an assistant general manager before that. You're right.
Yeah.
So he's got an opportunity now. Good for him. You know what it is too, is that general managing, I mean, just like being a coach, I think guys get to a certain point, it's a young man's game because you got to do a lot of flying. It's a lot of hours. You're like, you could be older, you could be a Lou Lamoriello or whatever, you could be one of those guys, but most, it seems to always be sort of a younger man's game, and then they get to a certain age, and then those guys want to be, like you say, they want to be president of hockey operations or president of hockey logistic, right? Whatever that next step is, or senior executive of hockey, or senior president
of hockey operations
hockey
or whatever.
operations or whatever. That's usually what you're right. President or senior vice president of hockey operations or whatever it is. So it's a natural progression. Seattle hasn't really done anything. I don't think they're close. I think they're still a ways away. I think they've probably got a lot of very good selections in the system that are working their way up. There'll probably be something in 3 to 5 years, but not anytime soon. So probably Ron Francis says, listen, I've done my part. I established the team. I made the draft picks. Somebody else can, develop the team with a little bit of younger blood. I want to, I want to do something else. That's probably what it is. So,
yeah. The other thing is, Chicago Blackhawks have a new coach, and hang on, name escapes me right now. We'll come back. Oh, Chicago's coach is. Hold on a minute. His name escapes me right now. They did recently name a head coach. For some reason, Jeff Blashill. Sorry.
Yeah.
It is Jeff Blashill. Blashill coming over from formerly the Detroit Red Wings. Blashill lost his job to Tom McCullen. Your thoughts on Jeff Blashill being in Chicago?
Yeah. Team's got to make a change, right? I mean, I don't know that much about him. I mean, but Chicago, I mean, they had, who was their coaching? Excuse me. I believe it was Luke Richardson, right?
Yeah, it was Luke Richardson for a time, and then they fired the coach that was there, replaced him with Anders Sorensen on an interim basis.
Right.
So there's been a lot of coaches there for a franchise that's kind of middling near the bottom.
I know. And they traded away now Seth Jones. I think they got to retool. I mean, they're not close, but they're not far away. Connor Bedard is coming into his own. There's a lot of UFAs to select. Maybe they can draw or somebody to come to play with Connor Bedard. Maybe, who knows? Maybe Connor Bedard is a scorer. Maybe they bring in Mitch Marner. He's a setup guy.
Yeah, see,
there's
a lot of odds makers that are saying
Matthews. What's that?
There's a lot of odds makers that are suggesting Marner to Chicago.
Yeah, they got money, and they want to surround Connor Bedard with some talented players. They got a lot of players to choose from here. A lot of players.
Frankie Nazar's there as well. They got some young defensemen there as well. At some point that has to turn.
Yep, and it will. It will, because Chicago has been lousy for a long time, and they've done a lot of picks, and they've got guys in the system. So now it's just a matter of them developing. But, maybe you can sign Marner as a UFA to like a 6-year deal, 7-year deal. You get him there with a Bedard for the next 7 years. You got a scorer and a shooter, or a scorer and a setup guy, but they're two smaller guys. Now you need somebody big to play on the left wing on that line, because I think Connor Bedard plays center, right? I think he's a centerman.
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah. So and Mitch Marner plays right wing. So you need somebody in the left wing, somebody with some grit and sandpaper and size to play on that left wing. And
and then the other interesting part is Mike Sullivan going from Pittsburgh to the Rangers.
Rangers listen, how long do you think Mike Sullivan's going to be without a job? I mean, come on, like
2 days.
2 days, hours? Was it days?
Yeah. And then the other one that I wanted to touch on quickly, Greg Cronin being fired in Anaheim and subsequently being replaced by Joel Quenneville. Um, so Joel
Yeah.
Quenneville back in the lead since being put
Wow.
on leave. Oh,
It's it.
I
Yeah.
hate to use the line, can you teach an old dog new tricks? But this may apply to Joel Quenneville. The last time he was in the game, Rick, I think the game was so different than it is today. Um, but the other thing is, too, I think this puts a lot of onus on the players now in Anaheim. How many years have they had the core of that young team together? Zedris, Gibson, Terry, uh, Zeller, the defenseman. You can only have so many times. You can only have so many young players go through so many different types of coaches before the onus turns on to the players or the guy that constructed the team in the general manager. To me,
Yeah.
this is an onus saying, okay, we're bringing in an established coach in Joel Quenneville. If you can't do it for Quenneville, the problem is on you. That's how I see this.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's gotten results everywhere he's coached. I mean, but the only question is, are they close enough? Like, is
Yeah,
he, because he's
yeah.
an older coach? Sometimes I wonder about the older coaches. Like, do you like a Paul Maurice? You don't bring him in now. 10 years ago, they brought him in Winnipeg to deal with the younger players, but now he's 10 years older. Just Quenneville, when he was younger team, develop them, bring them along. But I would have thought Quenneville would go more so to a team like the Rangers, like Mike Sullivan.
Yeah.
They're there. Like they've got lots of established players. Let's just get over the hump. Let's go. And so it's surprising to me, but maybe Quenneville says, you know what? I want to be part of something that we can bring from the ashes, right? Like out of the ground. And Anaheim has a ton of young players. They've got still guys in the
How much?
development
Oh,
hub
yeah.
where they've picked guys, they've picked really well. They're going to be talented. They have a very good young crop of players. So maybe Quenneville says, you know what? I want to coach another 5 to 10 years. I want to be part of this. That's what they must have sold him on, because they can't sell him on the fact we're going to be in the cup final next year, because I just don't see that happening. They'll be a good team, but they may not even make the playoffs as they are right now created.
How
So
much of this is about Joel Quenneville, Dwayne? This may be my only option and a chance to rebuild my coaching credibility with a team that's looking to rebuild their own credibility
yeah,
to show that they're able to take that next step. Like, if you would have told me 4 months ago, Rich, at Christmas, Joel Quenneville would be the coach of the Anaheim Ducks, I would have said you're nuts. Like, that to me
yeah,
just didn't compute. But as time has gone on, this kind of makes a little bit of sense. Now, we're never going to know what options Joel Quenneville had on the table. If this was a chance, oh, Anaheim's your only chance, yeah, you better take it. But if he had options over somewhere else, I'm curious what he saw in this group
yeah,
relative to his other opportunity.
yeah,
But there are ticking, and I hate to use the word, there are ticking time bombs with some of these general managers who have been on the job long enough but have not had a lot of results. Hello, Anaheim. Hello, Detroit.
yeah,
One of you is going to make a move, or the pressure is squarely on the general manager. And I think Detroit is in the same boat with Tom McCollum. Yes, he was there a year. At
okay,
some point, you got to break through. And the fact that Ottawa broke through before Detroit, as far as making the playoffs,
yeah,
is a little bit alarming. There
yeah,
seems to be a real lot of Stevie Y putting his Tampa Magic together in Detroit. You know,
yeah,
it's interesting. And then you talked about the last one I wanted to talk about. Rob just brought this up. Red Tocchet has been as advertised, and I think he knows where he belongs as far as his coaching style. But Red Tocchet to Philadelphia just seems like a match made out of dating matchmaking history.
Yeah, but is anyone surprised by this? Like,
No.
really? Like,
No.
the fans are going to love it. I mean, he was
Fans are
an
gonna love it. A
original
coach,
Flyer. So
finally, you get a coach that takes up the personality of his team in the right way, instead of the other way around. The coach trying to morph the team into his style.
yeah,
It's interesting. Ryan brings up Buffalo as well. I mean, how many more chances are they gonna have to rebuild that ship before it sails? I mean, Sam Reinhart they lost out on. They moved him along. Uh, you know, different guys, and you and I were
they
talking about
have
this.
a ton of good players. I mean, just
How? Yeah,
Gage Thompson, Owen Power. I mean, they
Rasmus
got guys
Dahlin,
there, huh?
Rasmus Dahlin there too.
Rasmus Dahlin. They got Tuck. What's his name? Or Tuch.
Alex Tuck.
Is Alex Tuck. Alex Tuck. They got some good hockey players on that team, but they just can't put it together. Who's their head coach now? It's somebody new again, right?
It was Lindy Ruff, unless they moved
It's
on
Lindy.
from him.
That's right. It's Lindy Ruff again.
Yeah.
Back from the again. Whatever goes around comes around. Another good coach, but can he get that? Like every year we talk about, the Sabres. They're there. Just
They're
like
gonna
Ottawa.
take a step.
Ottawa
They're
made
gonna
it.
take a step. Well, their rebuild is half as long as the Ottawa Senators, and look where the Senators got to.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it's just very interesting, the whole coaching fraternity.
I think we should talk. I'd love to talk about, unless you got something else, I'd love to talk about the UFA list.
Yeah, no, sure, let's do that. I mean, I just want it was bugging me, but we didn't talk about coaches getting new jobs for the last number of years, or for the last number of weeks, and we haven't even talked about it. But yeah, let's talk about the UFA list. I believe Mitch Marner tops that list.
According to TSN, yes, he does. And I guess because he's the youngest or the player most in his prime with the most points, even though his winning percentage and his scoring percentage drops off dramatically in the playoffs. He is probably, in terms of points per game to regular season, he's been the most productive the last 3, 4, 5 years. So yeah, he's probably going to get a payday wherever he goes, and he's going to be a much sought after free agent. But who has cap space? I mean, they're talking about him and making more money than Panarin. I think
I don't know if I believe that one.
I think he's in the they're talking like 11 to 13 million a year, which would be nuts. Like paying him what you pay.
I don't know, because then what's McDavid worth?
Well, look at what I wouldn't pay him more than Draisaitl or McKinnon, and Draisaitl and McKinnon aren't making 13 million. I don't believe.
No, yeah.
So, to me, he's not the best player in the NHL. Not even close. He has one bupkis. And you could say the same thing about Draisaitl, but Draisaitl has performed in the playoffs. Mitch Marner has not performed. And he was on a very good team that did not perform in the playoffs. So, I don't know.
The interesting part of this list is number 2 on the list, and Sam Bennett.
You could argue, I would argue, just looking at this list, he scored half the amount of points in the season compared to Mitch Marner. So you could say he's half as valuable. And yet on my list for the Winnipeg Jets, if I'm looking at what the Jets need, out of that top 5 list, I'm only looking at Sam Bennett. I mean, Nick Ehlers, you can take off this because I think they'll re-sign him. But I'm just saying the top 5, then you get to the top 10. Who am I looking at here? Who would I maybe go after? Aaron Ekblad. I'd go after him if I could, but he won't leave Florida. Florida will find a way to sign him. I'm not interested in Brock Besser, soft. Not interested in Brock Nelson, soft. Matt Duchene, soft.
I mean, let's talk quickly about Brock Besser.
Okay.
Not Brock Besser. Brock Nelson.
Yeah.
All the Avalanche gave up to get him, and they got one playoff series, a top end prospect in Cal Murchie they gave up, a first rounder they gave up, and he's probably not going to re-sign there.
Is that what he said?
Yeah, it looks like Bennett. It looks like he's going to move on.
Okay. But he's old. He's 33. I mean, I'm just looking at the
Yeah.
he got 56 points this year, but I'm just saying it's the type of player like that. It's not just about signing the best player on the list. It's signing, does that player make your team better? Does he fit? Does he meet the need that your team has? Right. Yep. So for the Jets, they need
two guys I'm looking at on this list.
Well, just let me finish my point. The Jets need sandpaper scoring. That's what they need. Scoring in the playoffs. So Mitch Marner does not qualify for that. Nick Ehlers, in theory, doesn't qualify for that, but they're probably going to sign him because he's a Winnipeg Jet. Brock Besser doesn't. Brock Nelson doesn't. Matt Duchene, he's been persona non grata. He had a point per game this year. Yeah. He's been almost invisible in the playoffs. Now he's 34. So I don't want the Jets to sign these old guys. To me, if they're going to go after any free agent, it's got to be somebody that's still in their 20s and you could commit 5 years to or something like that. So I don't know.
There's two guys on this list with, in my mind, that meet that quota. If you're looking at the TSN list, it'll be number 14, Ryan Donato. Had a very good 31-goal season in Chicago. He would slide in as the number 2 center. The other one is number 17, P. Suter. I've been really intrigued by this guy. He was a longtime Detroit Red Wing, now turned Vancouver Canuck. Those are the two guys if you want my opinion on who the Jets should go after. Another guy interesting, I know it's probably not going to happen, but Aaron Ekblad would fit my list to go right beside Josh Morrissey, although that might be a bit of a reach. But I mean, a lot of these guys, Henry Yokohari, to make an argument, Cody Ceci would probably be a good fit in Winnipeg. Herbert, the defenseman, listed at 33. There's a lot of guys in my mind here that the Jets could pass on. I mean, 40-year-old Brent Burns. He didn't done enough. What has he done in Dallas lately? Dust Nyquist in Minnesota. Matt Grizzlet. To me, there's just not a lot of people on this list that would entertain me if I'm a Winnipeg Jets. Maybe you take a look at a healthy, John Klingberg is now doing Klingberg-like things of 5 years ago in Edmonton. The more I look at this, the more you need to trade somebody that's either under contract or you have to go from within. And I think Elias Salamonson fits the bill somewhere on the right side there. Cheveldayoff and Arneal were not afraid to bring up his name. I think the line was from Chevy. If he had a good summer, he could force us into some interesting decisions. I think with the line from Cheveldayoff, Aaron Ekblad to me looks like the defenseman to go in debt, but I don't know if he will sign in Winnipeg.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Aaron Ekblad, or even I agree too. The comment there, Ivan Provorov. I've liked him since he was with Philadelphia.
Yeah,
maybe he'll sign back in Philadelphia now too, with the Rick Tocchet being there. I know he hated playing for Torts. So,
yeah. Well, and the other thing is too, he's a former Brandon Wheaton, so he's familiar with this province. It'll be interesting. But I just do not feel like the Jets will be in on any of the top 5. There's a comment here from Ryan. This is an interesting one. Marner to Anaheim. Problem is how much more skill did they need? But that's what
I think. Mitch Marner wants to do something completely different. Somebody's saying, "Oh, he wants to stay in the East." I said,
"Watch him go to Florida. Just watch."
Florida. I would not be surprised that he says, "I want to do something completely. I want to go in the Western Conference." Maybe he goes to Anaheim or to San Jose I don't think he wants to go to LA because they play a very boring style of hockey. I don't think he wants to be part of that. But maybe Chicago, play with Connor Bedard, just like all the attraction was to play 5 years ago. They drew all the people to go play with the Connor McDavid in Edmonton. So I don't know. It'd be very interesting. It'd be interesting. I hope they sign Nick Ehlers. But then how much do they have left? And are they even able to? I agree with you. We talk like we start to dream here, eh? We start to say, oh, Provorov, Aaron Ekblad. Yeah, but you can't hold them by, a gun and put them on the airplane to come here and sign a new contract at Portage in Maine, right? It's just not the same. Like the Jets don't have the same appeal as other cities and other markets, and that's just the way it is. To your point, they got a sign from within. Salmason, you're right. He might be the guy. Maybe he's the guy that plays with Morrissey. So who knows? Very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think they have to make some changes in their lineup. What that looks like, if that's through free agency, if that's through trades, then freeing up cap space, then to make a move in free agency, or making trades to getting guys out for draft picks to then be able to promote from within. Interesting. It'll be an interesting sort of discussion on that to see how that plays out.
Would you be opposed to the Jets trading Dylan DeMello?
No, they just signed him. So he wants to be here.
Right. Yeah. Well,
so
to me, Rich, you've almost backed yourself into a corner. I know we gotta go. I have one more question.
Yeah.
Just on the way out. Is there a concern that with the Winnipeg Jets retaining all these guys that they're gonna run it back, for lack of a better term, and there'll be very little change as a result? Or have they maybe re-signed the guys that they consider important and everybody else outside of maybe Nikolai Ehlers goes?
Good. It's a good question. You know what? I honestly don't know. I think they're gonna massage around the edges. I just don't see them blowing stuff up because you can't, because we just don't have the market.
You're not gonna blow it up. Did you just re-signed all these guys to big long-term contracts?
Unless you have to trade somebody who is signed away. That's a valuable player, as a player that's under contract who you want. Another team wants that, right?
That's fair, but I don't know. I think you've sold those guys that you just signed on being in Winnipeg long term rather than being signed in trade.
And that's what I'm saying, is that it would probably be a shocker to a guy like DeMello, or you name your player that's signed for the next 3 years, to now suddenly be traded away. Yeah. But maybe they part ways with some of the other guys. Like maybe they part ways with Miller, maybe they finally do part ways with Logan Stanley. I don't know. Or maybe Heinola. That's just like, he's another small defenseman. They just say goodbye, trade him away to somebody and get a second rounder or something. I don't know.
I hate to drop a bomb before we leave the show.
What's that?
Would you re-sign Nikolai Ehlers and then let the trade in Kyle Connor?
Well, when is Connor is a free agent after this coming year, right?
Yeah.
He's got one more contracted year.
Yeah.
See, and that's the thing, maybe. And
because then you open up the door to giving Nikolai Ehlers number 1 minutes, and Kyle Connor fetches you some value back.
Yeah, and maybe you trade him now, like at the beginning of this year, like in the off season, with a year of eligibility.
I don't know. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm just presenting an option.
It's something. It's something to consider, to change it up, and then
Because Nikolai Ehlers is the one complaining a lot I saw about the lot of number 1 line time.
Yeah.
It's interesting because that's the way you did Nikolai Ehlers back on that first line.
If you want him there. Scheifele has way better chemistry with Connor than with Ehlers.
Yeah, see, that's the other side. Is now you have set the apple card.
Yeah. Things to think about.
I'll leave you with this just on the way out.
Okay.
Nikolai Ehlers, 8 times 9.4. Are you taking it?
8 years at 9.4 million?
Yep.
Where do you come up with the number 9.4?
It's just average. I heard it on a podcast.
That's more than Scheifele and Connor Hellebuck make.
Correct.
Nope. I don't sign them for. What are Hellebuck and Connor or Kyle or Hellebuck and Scheifele? Said 8 million for 8 years or something, or I think it was
Yeah.
8 for 8.
Yeah, 8 and 7.5.
Yeah. I don't
Or
sign.
8 and 8.5. I can't
Or
remember.
8. I don't sign him for more than Scheifele or Hellebuck. I don't.
But is
Even if
that
it's
the
an inflated world, I don't sign him for more than that.
but is that a dangerous slow? But listen, I know we did it all, but
Yes, let's go.
you've kind of said Hellebuck and Scheifele as okay, nobody else underneath there.
Right, but
Is that a danger? Is that a dangerous precedent in a rising salary cap world?
No, but you have to play within the sandbox that you're in. And to me, I agree. Ehlers will never be a point a game player. He will net. I just don't ever see him. First of all, I don't ever see him playing 82 games a year. Have you seen him without hockey equipment on, in street clothes? He looks like a chicken. He's got chicken legs. He's got these little skinny legs. It's amazing.
Yeah.
He can skate like the wind, but he's not built. Like he just looks like this fragile little chick that's come out of its shell and wobbling around on legs. That's what he looks like. And so he gets injured a lot. He's never played more than 60, 70 games a year. He's always getting injured and always finding ways to get hit by a puck or twist his knee or twist his ankle.
Yep.
And so he's never been, even when he's played 60 games, he hasn't had 60 points. So I'm just saying he's never been at a point per game average, I don't think, at any point in his career. So to expect him now at 29, and he's the prime of his career. So doesn't me finish my point. So my point is he's not where Scheifele and Connor are. He's a step. If there's if there's tier one, you want to call tier one like McDavid, Draisaitl, McKinnon, you want to put those guys there, tier one, and then you go tier two. That's where Scheifele, Marner, you could put Matthews maybe tier 1A, sort of maybe in between that. But Scheifele's the next level down, so is Connor. Ehlers is not at that level. Then there's another level 3. That's where Ehlers, I don't know, you're going to put else, and you're going to put in there Sam Bennett, just those guys that score around 50 to 60 points a season, get roughly 3/4 of a point a game. That's where Ehlers is. He's got speed. Yeah, he's flashy. Okay. But I'm not paying him more. I'm not paying him level 1 or level 2 superstar salary for a level 3 player, and he'll never be a level 2 player. He just won't. So he's just not, I don't know what the word is. He just won't. So
yeah, it's interesting for sure.
We got to drop. We got to go.
Because we're in the go to first show of free agency, so there'll be a lot of woulda, coulda, shoulda. We'll be back next Monday, hopefully previewing the Stanley Cup final, which is set to start next Wednesday. That is the word around the street. Assuming these series finish in orderly fashion. Rich, Florida win tonight.
I think Carolina wins their one game.
That's tonight.
Yep.
All right. Well, we'll leave it at that. For Rich Petty, I'm Michael Gell saying so long. Have a great week. We'll talk to you next Monday. Bye for now.